Hello, this is Alan. Welcome to the first episode of this series, Surface, Explore, and Record, where I take you through a methodology of working with AI coding assistants that will help you uncover some of the decisions that AI is making for you, and it will lead to a more reliable, more production-ready app at the end. In this series, I'm going to create a task management app showing you how I use this methodology. So without further ado, let's grab some coffee and let's get started. Before we jump into the AI, let's talk briefly about what we're going to do today. So first, let's talk about the Surface, Explore, Record methodology. The importance of this methodology is that it allows you to uncover the decisions that AI is making for you. So if you just told AI to make me an app that does X, the AI would do that and it might create a great app. The problem is you don't really know what it's creating because it's making those decisions. Instead, we need to treat the AI like an analyst. We want to talk to it like we would a business analyst or a developer or a systems analyst or an architect so that the AI can help us understand what decisions we need to make and help us make those decisions, but then we become the ones who actually make it. And we do that with a three-step process. First, we surface the decisions, then we explore options around each decision, and then we record those decisions. We can use the same three steps throughout the entire software lifecycle. And in this episode, we're going to talk about the idea stage, or it's the business requirement stage. Really a very similar idea. So we're going to create business requirements for a task management app. In the idea stage, we're going to be asking questions like, who is this for? What's the minimum viable version, the MVP, if you will? What's in scope and what's out of scope? So these are the questions that we're going to do as we go through these same three steps. Later, we'll go through design, we'll go through architecture, plan, build, and then all the way through the entire life cycle. At the end, we'll have a very similar app perhaps, but we'll understand the decisions and they'll be the decisions that we made and that will make more sense to the app that we want to build. So let's turn to Claude Code and look at the AI and see how we can use Surface, Explore, and Record to make a better app. Okay, so let's get settled in here in VS Code with Claude Code running in the terminal. This should work with any of the AI coding assistants as long as that coding assistant has access to your code, to your documentation, where it can write documents, write code for you, and not just copying and pasting. You could probably use it in something like just ChatGPT and Claude.ai, but it's going to be a little bit different process because you wouldn't be able to access all of your code. So as you can see, this is a completely blank project. I've only created a docs, business, and decisions folder that I'll use later to put the decisions in. There's no skill.md files. There are no claude.md files in here. So there's nothing going on in the background besides the prompts that I give it. Now you could take some of these prompts and some of these ideas and put them in skills. But for this exercise, I'm just going to show you how I do it prompt by prompt. And the first prompt I want to do is I'm going to tell Claude briefly what I'm building, this task management app, and I'm going to tell it what stage I'm in. So I'm in the business level idea stage, that my final goal is to have a business requirements document and that I want it to make a list of business level or idea level decisions that I should make before I build the BRD. So this is what's important. Our goal here is to make a business requirements document, but we don't want Claude or any AI just to make these decisions for us. So we're going to build this document based on decisions that we make. Now, don't worry about copying down the prompt. I'm going to put all of this information in a GitHub repo for you. You'll find the information about the repo in the description. You'll also find in there the code or any documents that are built during episodes, and you'll be able to follow along. So let's get Claude started off. And again, don't worry about the prompt word for word. It's more about the idea. What we're doing right now is that we're letting Claude know where we are in the process and what kind of decisions we want it to make. If I just opened this up, then it would be making technical decisions, architecture decisions, and all this. But I wanted to make sure that it stuck to these business level decisions because that's the stage of the project that we're in. Now, so Claude came up with 13 categories of decisions. You can see them listed here. In each one, there are several questions. Now, as we move on, you'll see later that I'm going to tell Claude as it makes the decision records to break these up so that there is only one decision, one question per record, because we don't want to get confused about what we're actually deciding at each point. It'll make more sense as we get along. So if I look through some of these, they don't really apply to my project. For instance, the free, paid, freemium, or the success metrics, I'm building this as a demonstration, so I don't need that. But what I'm doing here is I'm going to show you how you can modify what Claude is doing. So I'm just going to say I don't need decision 13 because this is only for demonstration. Now, what I do want to do though is I want to bring in my next prompt. And in the next prompt, we're going to begin building the decision records. We're not making the decisions yet, but we're building these decision records. So in this prompt, I'm telling Claude to create these decision records that will be used to answer the questions that it raised in the decisions, and that I want to make sure that I break these up so that there's only one question, one decision to make per decision record. So I'll go ahead and get Claude started here. Now, this is the really powerful part of this, because once we make these decisions and record them, then later we will go back and use those decisions to create whatever documents or code that we're doing. So for example, later we'll actually have Claude use these decision records to create the business requirements document. Now, I don't usually do this, but I'm just going to tell Claude to go ahead and just do all the edits. And you can see over on the left pane that it's creating a file for each record. So we'll let Claude work through that real quick. And you can see it's created so far 23, 25, and it's going to make an index file. The index file is important because that is one place we can look at and say that's a list of all of our decisions that we need to make. So we have 25 decisions to make on the business level to be ready to build this project. Now, let's look at our next prompt. I noticed as I went through the decisions, and this is very important, you want to go through the decisions. As a matter of fact, before we go to the prompt, let's just pull one up. So you can see that here is one of the decisions, the primary audience, and it asks who is the primary audience for task flow? Is it for internal team use only, or will it also serve external customers? Notice there's no decision here. There's no rationale yet. This is just a blank decision record, and it'll be filled in as we make the decisions. So let's close this. But I noticed that there's no information here about accessibility or localization. So I want to have my app to be accessible, and I want to have different language possible. So I just have a prompt here that says add some decisions related to accessibility and localization. The key here is, again, I am in control of what's going on. So Claude thought about my app, it came up with decisions, but you know what? It didn't include all the decisions. So I'm going to have it to add some decisions about accessibility and localization. Again, you stay in control. So you want to go through and make sure that you understand what's included in the decisions and then add them as you need. So you see it added decisions 26 through 30 for accessibility and localization, and it updated the index. So if I pull in my index file now, you can see that this has a list of all the decisions, and it's a good way to keep track of everything that we're doing. Now, we have our decisions. Now comes the very important part, because remember, we just made some changes to our decisions. We told Claude to remove some decisions earlier, and then we add some. So it's possible that our decisions are out of order. So now I'm going to say, hey, go back and review these and see if we need to change the order, because it may be that some of these decisions are out of order now. So I'm going to tell Claude to review the decision records, determine if they're in the correct order, and if not, to rearrange them, and to make sure to change the number in both the file name and in the index file so that we know what order they should be in. So I'm going to skip ahead while Claude does this, and I'll come back in just a few minutes. Okay, and I'm back, and Claude has rearranged some of our decisions. You can see them listed here if you want. And again, we still have our list of 30 decisions in the file folder that we're able to follow along with. Now that we have our decisions listed, we can start making decisions. And this is the next important prompt. I'm going to tell Claude to step through each of the decision records. Those are those files that we just created. And that for each decision, I need to know the options. Now, this is the explore part that we talked about before. So we've surfaced the decisions. Now we're going to explore options for those decisions. So tell me the options, and for each option, I want strengths, weaknesses, and trade-offs of each option. And then after the options, I want Claude to tell what it recommends with an explanation. And finally, I want it to tell me any assumptions that it makes. Now, each of these steps are very important. It even works if you don't understand the technology behind this, because you can read for each option what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses, what are the trade-offs, what are you giving up, what are you gaining for each of these options. You're also able to see what Claude recommends and why it recommends that, and you're able to see the assumptions. The assumptions are some of the key pieces of information, because you may look at an assumption and say, well, Claude thought I was doing X, but I'm really doing Y. And you can go back and have a conversation with it and say, well, this assumption is wrong. If we go back to what I'm planning, does that change your recommendation? So let's get Claude started with the first decision. And what we're going to do is we're now going to get the first decision with each of the options and all the information that I ask about. So let's go ahead and start up here. And you see here's the decision. It's the primary audience. Who is the decision primary audience? Who is the primary audience for TaskFlow? Is it for internal use only, or will it also serve external customers? You can see the options. It gave us 3 options, A, B, and C. It told us strengths, weaknesses, and trade-offs for each option. And then under that, we get its recommendation. It recommends internal first, expand to external later. Now, let's just say that I read through here, and by the way, you see we also have assumptions, which are very important. Let's say I read through these options and I think, I don't really understand some of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain to Claude what I want. So I want to be able, and you get to see my bad typing. I want to be able to invite people to join my projects in TaskFlow. I don't want just anyone to register. I'm not sure which option that is. So I'm just going to tell Claude how I want it to work, and then it's going to go back and it says it sounds like a variation of option C. So now I'm actually changing its options because it was something different than I really wanted. So it says invite only access. Yes, that's exactly what I want. And I said, I'd say that sounds correct. Update the decision record. Now Claude is going to take that information and put that in a decision record that we will use later to build our business requirements document. So Claude is going through and making those changes. And when he finishes, I'm going to pull up that decision record and you can see what happened. Okay, so let's look at our decision record now. Remember earlier it was completely blank. And now we have the question, now we have the decision. So here's the decision that I told it. I want invite only access, and here's the rationale. This is the reason for that. So here is our decision record. Now later, when we're ready to build our business requirements document, I have a record that I can give to Claude and say, build the business requirements document based on this. And Claude will know exactly what I'm trying to build. Now the next step is to go to the next decision now that that one is made. And you can see decision 1 is recorded, ready to proceed to decision 2. So all I would have to say is, yes, let's go to decision 2. Again, it would tell me the question for that decision that I need to make. It would give me the options. It would tell me the strengths and weaknesses. It would tell me the trade-offs. And I would do this for all 30 decisions. Now, often as I go through, I may find that one decision that I make reminds me that there are other decisions. There are different ones that are not here. And so I would just say, hey, I just remembered there's this other decision. Let's add that. And Claude would add that to the decision record as well. And we just keep iterating through this until we have answered all the decisions. Now, what do we do once we get all those decisions made? Well, I'm going to talk about that in episode 2. I'm going to go offline now, answer all these questions so that you don't have to sit here and watch me answer 30 questions. But like I said, all of the decision records will be in GitHub. You'll be able to check that out. But in the next episode, we're going to use these decision records to create a business requirements document. I hope this has been beneficial. If you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to leave a comment, and I will see you next time.